Hello again, I'm Jason Delacruz. I've been working on a simulation project recently which required me to communicate with X-Plane via network. So I did a little bit of research and found that X-Plane does have a UDP interface that lets you access a lot of its API. Unfortunately, I also found it pretty difficult to track down good documentation on how to use it. And also it doesn't seem to be as well supported as their plugin based API. So I decided to come up with my own solution, which is what I'll show you on this screencast. Keep in mind this is for Windows only. So when you start X-Plane, it looks for a plugin or any number of plugins in its plugin folder. These are in the form of DLLs. So I've written a plugin which simply listens to an area of shared memory for queries and posts responses back when applicable. And in the project there is also a .NET web service which communicates with the shared memory and also interfaces with your application. Your application communicates with this web service via simple JSON formatted calls. So let's take a look at how it all fits together. Let's go ahead and start up X-Plane. Okay, X-Plane has now started. Let's double check that it loaded our plugin. Yeah, it did. There it is. Now all we have to do is start our .NET web service. That is now ready to go. If you go to the project's wiki, you'll be able to find a listing of all the available calls for this web service. And if you go to the X-Plane SDK documentation area and go to data refs, you can get a listing of a huge listing actually of just about anything you can do in this simulator just by calling these data refs. You can read or write from a lot of these. Some of them are read only, a lot of them are read and write, but you can access all of them through this REST web service. For example, if there's something you need to access as a float, you would go to, if you're interested in reading it, you just go to read data ref as a float. This is the URL you would need to call in order to access that. It ends with the query string data ref equals, and that's where you would place your data ref, which would be this portion right here. So I've copied and pasted a couple of these onto a clipboard just so that we can demo these a little faster. If you haven't used Fiddler, you should check it out. In Windows, it's a really neat way to test out your RESTful services. First, we'll go ahead and get the tail number for this aircraft. If you see over here, our query string ends with data ref equals, and then sim aircraft view ACF tail num. We're going to retrieve up to 40 characters. You don't need all 40 characters because this is a short tail name. I believe it's 5 or 6 characters in the United States. There's our results. We have November 155 Niner Mike. Now the cool thing is as well, if we want to overwrite that, we want to put in our own tail number, say I buy this plane, and I want to turn it into November Kilo 4 Foxtrot Lima Yankee. We go ahead, oh actually we need to change this content type application JSON. If we execute that, you'll be able to tell over here that the this little plate on our simulator has now changed to November Kilo 4 Foxtrot Lima Yankee. Let's try out another example here. We're going to change or let's retrieve what our throttle is currently set to. So we'll do a get. It's at 0, 0. It's a twin engine, so that's why I requested a value count of 2 here. It's an array. You'll be able to tell once you look at the SDK documentation. But this is a twin engine plane, so we want the value for 2 for both engines. Again, we can actually write to those and say we wanted to give our left engine full throttle, so that's 1.0, and leave the right engine at 0.0, and let's see if we can make this thing spin around. So there we go, full throttle, left engine, and as you would expect, we start spinning around. So let's fix that. 0 on both engines. Okay, there we go. And that's about it. That sums it up. I mean, you've never really been able to develop for X-Plane this easily. So this is a cool little plugin and web service that just allows you to develop just so much quicker for X-Plane. In fact, I've written an application here for the iPhone, which simply calls this REST service. We can give our simulator some rain. You can tell they're on our windshield. Suddenly it started raining. And this is just with a couple of lines of code, really. We can zoom in, or we can actually make our field of view wider. There's our two propellers. Or we can zoom in and just call just about anything you want on the simulator. Just a few lines of code. You can even make a web application to control most of X-Plane that easily. So I hope you enjoy this plugin, and I hope somebody finds good use for it as much as I have. And let me know if you have any questions.